our series. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a targeted sales approach. And I think that, everybody's got kind of a different business here with respect to the sectors that you come from, but I tried to keep the content a little bit more general with respect to not being so process or industry specific. But sort of the overall point of talking about the targeted sales approach is around focus. And Zig Ziglar, when I first got into sales, he was somebody that I read a lot. And he says, lack of direction, not the lack of time, is the problem. We all have 24-hour days. So the question really is, how do you want to spend your time to maximize your sales, business development, and revenue generation opportunities? So, excuse me, one of the key themes during a situational economy like this is strengthening customer relationships. And there's lots of CRM technology, customer relationship management technology out there on the market. And I think that if this is not something that you're currently using in your business, now is the time to really look at it from the perspective of how you manage, cultivate, communicate, and monitor the activity between you and your customers or clients. If you don't have a lot of customers or clients, there's some free technologies out there. There's Sugar CRM. There's just lots of different ones you can look at. But the point of using CRM technology is to really allocate your resources appropriately based on your biggest customers, your highest profit margin customers, or the ones that bring most value to the company. So that goes back to the kind of the corporate 80-20 rule. So 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. And the target-based allocation really is to allocate resources within your sales, marketing, and business development activities based on what you want to achieve on the other side. So CRM technology is a really good way to stay very connected with your customers and to strengthen your relationships with them. Most customers don't want to feel like a number or an invoice. They really want you to understand their needs and requirements. So this is an opportunity for you to obviously get better connected with them. We've talked a lot about finding answers in your team for how your team wants to get communicated to, finding answers within your customer base on how they want to be communicated to. And this is the same thing for customers. They really want you to connect with them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a customer advisory board in just a second. The last thing before I move to customer advisory board is, the idea of where and how business intelligence can be applicable to your industry, to your business, to your company. Where and how can predictive analyses and data science play a role in structuring your product roadmap, how you move forward with your internal processes, your operational efficiencies, that sort of thing. So these are some, sort of tips around using technology, information, and intelligence to help you do a better job of connecting with your customers. So I think when you're out there talking to customers, as we said on the previous webinars, you really want to be empathetic to what's happening right now. How are they? How's the health of their business? You really want to emphasize that things are very, very different now. And one of the most important things is talking about safety, security, and comfort. And that could be in the framework of your customer relationship that, we're here for you as your vendor. And we're going to provide you with high quality services and products like we always have. And you can rest assured that we will be very responsive and reactive to your needs and requirements. So if your business is feeling, or if you personally as the manager or the CEO of the company are feeling high anxiety because you're not sure where the future is headed, you have these safety and security issues too. Well, you can assume your customers do as well. So talking in terms of comfort, security, and safety is a way for you to continue to build trust with your customers and deepen your relationships with them. And then what's the best way that we can support you as your vendor? How has your business changed, and what do we need to do to adapt our models, our processes, our engagement with you to be more supportive of how your business has changed? And then lastly, obviously you as a manager or CEO, you're really trying to figure out what your business looks like over the next 30, 60, 90 days. You're trying to figure out your production forecasting, and you're trying to figure out your cash flow planning. So asking your customer after you've inquired about how they are and how their business is, you want to let them know that you are trying to forecast, and are they able to discuss with you their purchase forecasts over the coming months, because it would help you do better planning for your business and do a better job in communicating to your employees and your team what the demand looks like. So it's a completely reasonable and respectable question to ask your customers about how their business, their customers are going to be affecting your manufacturing, your processing, your et cetera. So it's okay to definitely ask them that. But of course, in the very beginning of the conversation, how are they? How's their business? So be empathetic. All right, so customer advisory boards are something that I've advocated for a long time, whether you're a large company or a small company. And typically when I work with a lot of startups, they have challenges associated with product market fit. And we talked about that on a prior webinar with respect to building a product that the market wants to buy on a repeatable, sustainable basis, and also that the market is large enough to sustain the company over a period of time. So one of the ways that companies learn how to build products that the market wants to buy is by forming a customer advisory board. And now more than ever, I think your ability to listen and understand what your customers want is more important than ever. It's a good opportunity for you to understand what they're experiencing. You get a deeper understanding of their perspective. If you're going to shape your new narrative and your new message, they can function as a sounding board for that message. There's a way, when you go to somebody for continual feedback and you listen to what they say and you take it and internalize that and adjust your marketing, sales, or your product strategy, that builds loyalty and trust with your customers. They can function as a sounding board for your product, your roadmap, a change in your pricing, your packaging, your delivery, your engagement. So they're a great resource to help you understand whether or not the decisions you're making today, now, for the next 90 days, will be the right decisions. And if you have a new sales pitch or a new message, obviously they can give you feedback on it. Your job really is to adapt what you're doing and make it relevant for them as much as possible. And so the customer advisory board is a great way for you to get insights. And I'll talk a little bit more about how to do this. I think that when you're forming a customer advisory board, find people that are representative of who you're selling today to, or who you want to be selling to tomorrow. So if you think now today there's going to be a shift in the profile of the customers that you're selling to, then you want to seek out profiles that match that. Fundamentally, as a personality, you want individuals that are thoughtful, creative, interested, and participative, because you're going to be going back to them for feedback in various different forms, whether it be in a focus group, a virtual focus group situation, or you're going to send surveys out to them, or send a sample prototype, or you want them to review some content. You've got to have people that are really participative and interested in giving you that insight that you really require. When you manage a customer advisory board, if you are bringing people together on a regular basis for Zoom calls and what have you, you really do need to plan ahead. You need to create an agenda. You need to be disciplined about the time, and you want to compensate them for their time and effort. Compensation can range from a flat fee for participating in the customer advisory board, or some kind of a gift card, or if you think that you're going to need their insights over the next 6 to 12 months, figuring out some sort of good exchange of value for their time. But you generally want to manage the customer advisory board in a formal, disciplined way to ensure that you're not taking advantage of your customer, and to also ensure that they're still willing to provide that insight and participate on a regular basis. I've seen different names for customer advisory boards. They're boards, they're councils, and then I've seen market advisory boards or councils. And the difference with market is really that you've got both prospects and suspects and customers participating in that. And I think that you have to manage those differently because your customers will have more insight and understanding of your business because they've had a relationship with you, transacting products or services from you, and your suspects and your prospects won't. So you just need to figure out who's going to be in this group, how are you going to leverage them, and what is it going to be called. I put a bunch of resources in here to give you some guidance on how to do it, how to manage it, what's the best practices, some of the reasons for doing this. So those are some resources that you can go to after the webinar is over and get a sense of what the value is of creating a customer advisory board and why it's really the right time to do it now when business is we're not as confident in business in our sales pipeline right now, and we're trying to figure out how this situational economy is going to affect us and what we need to do to push back on it. The most important thing, I think, with your relationships with your customers and prospects is don't go dark on them. Don't go quiet as you try to figure out, what do we do? How do we manage, our communications? Don't go dark on them. It's more important now to be in front of them with your brand name, your core value, all the things that you offer them, all the talent, expertise, knowledge, high quality products. This is the time for you to continue talking to your customers and your prospects. So your blog post, your newsletter, can you do online classes that bring value to your customer base? Can you create short videos that are related to your product but may have a humorous side to them? And of course, your social media strategy needs to be very proactive and out there on a regular basis. More than anything, when you go dark, people forget. So there's an adage that out of sight, out of mind, meaning if I don't hear you and I don't see you, I'm not thinking about you. Yet on the other hand, the reverse is true. If I see you, I hear you, you're very visible in what you're doing as a company, as a social media strategy, it makes me feel more comfortable that you're going to be here tomorrow, the next day, and the day after. So don't go dark. I like this quote: you don't get results by focusing on results, you get results by focusing on the actions that produce the results. So this is all about process management, this is about focus, this is about the step-by-step, how do you get the results you want, what are the things that you need to do to make them happen. So I've managed sales teams of 2 people and 12 people, and I think that when times are challenging like this, it's very easy for our sales team and our salespeople to get very distracted by all the noise, the news, the negative, information out there. This is more than ever a good time to be managing much closer the sales process so that people can, the sales team can understand the value of managing a really solid routine. So this is going back to a lot of the basics in Sales 101, which is, planning and setting clear goals. So how much of the time are you spending with your sales team to manage their day-to-day or their week-to-week schedule? They need to block time to connect with prospects and clients. You want to be as specific as you can about how many contacts you can make, which type of contacts, and you want them to be able to monitor and track and assess their progress. And obviously they want to look at what progress they managed today and how tomorrow looks. So some of this stuff is very basic Sales 101 stuff, but in cases like this where you have this big gut punch to the global economy, it's important to go back to the basics because we're looking at our actions and our activities and our focus on a day-to-day basis to help us get to the results that we want. So I'll talk a little bit more about this. I've used this acronym for SMART for goal setting for a number of years. It's still my favorite, and it's still one of the few acronyms that I can remember. But SMART goal setting is being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So as you work with your sales teams and they're setting goals, use this as sort of a frame of reference for them to set goals that are achievable. So if they can't achieve the goals, there's a level of confidence that comes from that, and it will help them get on to the next set of sales calls or next set of goals that they need to do. So use this as kind of a good resource. And to be honest with you, I've been using this acronym for more than 20 years because I've been in sales for a long time, and it still gets me to revamp my goals sometimes if I look at it and I go, well, no, it's not really achievable to make 500 phone calls today, but it is realistic to follow through with 3 appointments that I set. So managing productivity, are you going to make 3 calls today or connect with Jan? Tomorrow I'm going to send out revised brochure to 5 contacts. The next day I'm going to follow up on those emails. As you know, sales is a numbers game. The more you put into the top of the funnel, the more comes out the bottom of the funnel with respect to deals. So more effort equals more deals. And again, we're getting back to some of those 101 basics in sales. What I like to do is create sort of sales accountability partnerships. So this is where you pair 2 salespeople together to work together on a lot of these basic things that need to happen. And so the pairing of salespeople is, how do you look at the different skill sets that each person brings to the table? Maybe they have different strengths, different value they can offer to one another. And the purpose of this pairing of peer salespeople is so that they can share goals and be accountable to one another. And since they're not sitting side by side in the office anymore, how can they do a 15-minute call every day to just talk about what their results were for the day, or what their results were for the previous day? The objective of these calls is not to judge one another with respect to, oh, well, you didn't get the 10 calls done today that you said you would do, you only got 3 done. It's not to judge one another. It's really just to, the value of having an accountability partner is really very, very high, because if you verbalize a goal and you put it out there to your partner, then you have an obligation now to fulfill that. And so this is an opportunity to just create a deeper connection between salespeople for them to use one another's learnings. And it's a good opportunity, I think, to help minimize the management of the VP or the director of sales if they have a lot of people on the team that they have to, work with. It's a great way to to learn from one another. I think it also helps kind of promote self-analysis. So it helps salespeople understand that there's ways that they could do something better or achieve their goal more effectively. And I think it also creates more problem solving and faster problem solving. Salespeople, I think, also tend to just look at their own piece of the puzzle sometimes. Oh, I have X number of calls to make because I have a target of X amount of revenue that I have to bring into the company. Sometimes these accountability partners help them kind of step back and see the bigger picture with respect to how my activities really affect the overall bottom line of the company. So you're kind of helping them look at a bigger picture of what's going on. So here's a question that we got last time. If we're not really able to proactively sell to our customers, what can we do? If you are committed to keeping your team on board, not cutting their hours, you're financially able to do that and weather the next couple of months of storm or unclear activity, however we want to call this. This is a good opportunity to set up KPIs or MBOs with the sales team. So key performance indicators or management by objective. This is a good way for your sales team to remain engaged with customers. It gives you more control and direction over their activities. It's a great opportunity to refine your internal processes and tighten up your marketing and sales unity. And I say tighten up the marketing and sales unity is because I have been a VP of marketing, a VP of sales, and a VP of biz dev. And I do know that depending on which side I was on, there was sometimes more friction between sales and marketing than there should have been. So the role of marketing is demand and awareness generation, and the role of sales is really to close those deals. But if you don't have a very clear alignment, or the alignment is not as tight as it could be, this is a good opportunity to really make that happen with internal to the company. And if you need to look at your processes, you might want to start with who are we targeting? What's the profile and the persona of the individual that we're targeting from a sales perspective? What's the criteria that we use to convert a suspect to a prospect? So we suspect that this profile is the right profile we want to sell to. When does that individual become a prospect? And then when do we convert from a prospect to a lead? And then when does a lead become a sale? So developing that criteria for when is a prospect a 20% prospect versus when somebody is an 80% prospect. One company I was a VP of sales for, when it got to contract phase, meaning the customer we've gone through all the demos, we've negotiated the terms, and now we're at contract phase. That's when the prospect was a 90%er. So they're 90% down the path of closing the deal. We haven't closed them yet because the deal's not done until the paperwork's signed and then the product is implemented. So that was another issue with respect to implementing. But my point is that this is a really great opportunity for you to address all your internal processes, your qualification criteria for when suspects become prospects, prospects become leads, and leads become sales, so that everybody is very clearly aligned on that, and that it helps with your internal forecasting and your pipeline management. And then obviously investing in training for your sales team. This is a great time to do it. If you want to have them become stronger negotiators or stronger closers, you want them to do a better job in forecasting, or you want to refine their hunter-farmer activities, or you want them to learn how to do a better needs assessment in the consultative sale with your customers. Hunter and farmer activities really boil down to hunter is the person that goes out and gets the deals. So they're looking at finding companies and individuals that match a certain persona, whereas a farmer is actually an account manager that cultivates the relationship, and a lot of times the hunter will close the deal and turn the activity over to the farmer. So an outside salesperson or a district salesperson could be the hunter, and the farmer will be the account manager. So looking at the different functions and activities of each role within the company helps you do a better job in understanding what modifications need to be made to the current processes, your qualification criteria, your definitions, your persona that you're selling to, those kinds of things. And then lastly, if it makes sense, do you have salespeople that sell into other countries where foreign language capability might be advantageous? Would you consider investing in some foreign language training for a couple of your salespeople that are selling into another country? Most business around the world is done in English, but I will tell you that having the ability to do business in a foreign language is a very valued asset, and it helps you build a lot of trust with your customer base. So talking a little bit more about optimizing. So what kind of sales training manuals do you have within your organization? How do you bring a new person on board? Are there ways that you can improve that sales training module? What's happening with your awareness and demand generation programs? How, again, are you linking the sales and marketing together to be very aligned and be very tight? What are the list of objections that come up on a regular basis in the sales process? And what are the responses that are written up to to overcome those objections. That should be probably part of your sales training manual if it's not already. And obviously having in today's environment, being very empathetic to buyers' social and emotional mindset. How long is your sales cycle? How do you track that? Where's the first contact with the customer all the way to the close of the sale? So how are you tracking and monitoring your sales process? And then revisiting your closed deal ratio. Does 10 leads equal 1 deal? Does 10 leads equal 2 deals? So understanding that for optimization of your sales process, I think this is one of the best opportunities for companies, if they can afford to do it, to really dig down and optimize everything that's happening in their sales process, their framework and their structure that they're using to manage and track their deals and their pipelines. Because the more optimization you have in your criteria, the better you do forecasting, and the better the company can really see what the cash flow and the cash needs are for the next 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. But the point is that now is a great time. If we're not transacting a lot of business with customers, now is the time for us to optimize what we're doing so that we can come out of this as a stronger, more well-prepared sales organization. So I think this is a really great e-commerce opportunity for us. You can see at least I have seen the amount of articles recently about how to look better on Zoom, how to be more prepared for a Zoom call, how to set up Square and Venmo and Zelle and PayPal and all these other kinds of things. So people are responding and reacting and seeing that that is the opportunity right now. So consider how that affects your business. I like this quote, "No one can hit the target with their eyes closed." So Paulo Coelho, Brazilian author who just passed away recently, great insights. And it's funny how you look for quotes around certain topics and they're all around authors. So, or most of them are around authors and motivational speakers. So what I did is I kind of touched on a couple of things around optimizing your sales process, understanding more about what you're doing to be effective in your alignment between sales and marketing. I think that this is a really good time to dig down into what's worked, what's not. Go back to your sales team and figure out where are the opportunities to modify, change, and alter what we're doing, because this is really about adaptation to new scenarios, new criterias, new circumstances that will give us the opportunity, I think, to come out of this better and stronger.